No, it's the good tea. It's the tea that doesn't. It's the tea that doesn't.
Okay. The rock tea.
Were you saying that hopefully? I mean,
And speaking of dinner, I must go too. My wife is waiting and I'm hungry.
well,
I've enjoyed it. You do a wonderful job.
We didn't bring any snacks, did we?
I know that.
Yeah, I was in too much of a rush to stop and get cookies
And that's
today.
why I'm leaving.
Sorry.
No,
I don't blame you.
I'll be back though.
Rapid Ralph. It was a
Yeah.
pleasure.
I enjoyed it.
All right, we'll come back. I bet you will.
I will. I
Okay.
will. Good night, all.
If I can.
Ralph wants his flying car.
Yeah.
Oh, your flying chair,
Yeah, I've already got a flying chair. I want a flying car.
flying car.
Flying car
I
sounds
should have
great.
given you one of these chairs. Oh, okay. Well, we'll sit his. Over there, we'll bring on a. Bring on another cup. Let's see. I know this one. As you see, we have a mismatched set of china. It wasn't
character.
It wasn't this badly mismatched when we started, and there was a lot more Wedgwood when we started. But what happened?
You know, food fights are one thing, but when people start throwing china,
Yeah, well,
it's out of control.
yeah, well, just a box of it. I had it all packed in a box, and it fell, and it really. So now we're working off of. I pieced it together the best I could to keep it going, and that's what's going on. We're changing perspective.
Mine
Indeed.
held tea very nice.
Huh?
Mine held tea very
Yeah,
nice.
they all hold tea, I think.
And
Here, there's more of this, a different kind in there.
the rock and roll tea.
No, the rock tea is coming in this one, but let me tell you, this is not shabby. What's in the shall we call that the
12
violet?
cups I had of that were really
No, you had, how many cups have you had? Just one. I
one
think.
too many. Yeah.
Just one cup. You don't like to do a lot of caffeine, do you?
No.
You're careful with that.
Yeah.
Does it have a bad effect on you?
Yes. Makes me run my mouth and sound like a fool. And then
Hey, Butch, hey, Terry.
then people know.
Are you gonna sit down here and join us?
Yeah, hold on.
Okay.
Yeah, I just went on.
Well, I want to hear. You know what I want to hear about is about. He's your brother, right?
He is.
He had some kind of a career in professional golf. How long
we
did
don't
you
wanna
play
get back there.
You played professional golf for a lot of years. Didn't
No,
you?
just on the fringes.
For how many years?
Well, it depends on how you look at it. I was more off than on, but I actually started playing mini tours back in the late 70s. Sorry. And but more recently, I guess a more earnest effort at it in for the last about 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an interesting little occupation to try to pursue. It's expensive.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Very, very competitive as well. So, but I love doing it. Yeah, I really enjoyed the pursuit. I'll have to say that I wasn't exactly your standard sort of guy out there chasing after the Champions Tour. Most of these guys fly to tournaments and stay at the nicest hotels and such as
Right,
that.
and you're
whereas
driving and camping out.
I was sleeping in my van in the parking lot, and which
Eating
I
a steady diet of government cheese.
actually
It's
really enjoyed it. It was.
It's a rich man's game.
It really is.
It is.
You must have some money, or you're definitely living on the fringes.
Right. And
But I actually like that. So
well,
Tell about Gary Player.
I know you enjoyed it, or you wouldn't have been doing it.
oh yeah, no doubt, and had a little success.
And how lucky you were to be able to do that for as long as you did that, honestly.
Well, you're exactly right. And I don't know that I've finished with it yet. It seems to be finished with me most of the time, but I don't think I'm finished with it. But yeah, I may have a little more success before it's all over. It's hard to say, but I have some great memories of showering in thunderstorms, and that's the hardest part of it, is finding when you're sleeping in your van. Is normally you can shower at the host club or whatever, but if you're in between tournaments or something like that, then that's always a challenge. So
Yeah,
let's
they
have
usually have
showered in
showers at the
thunderstorms.
clubhouse, yeah.
Oh yeah, but thunderstorms are a good place. Sprinklers on the golf course, I've done that. Hoses at the cart barn, yes sirree. Oh yeah, it's been I'm not their pride and joy. I'm not the poster boy for the championship.
Well, you haven't slept in any sand traps like Gary.
Have not slept
Okay,
in a
now
bunker.
tell the story. What was it?
Well, this actually happened. Gary Player is one of the great golfers of all time, and I understand he's actually moved his business operation to Asheville.
Really?
From South Africa. Yeah, I don't personally know that to be true, but from what I hear other people say about what's been written in the paper, is that he's but great respect and admiration for this man.
That's pretty exciting, actually.
Wonderful attitude, and just a great man. But he was when he first started in professional golf, coming in from South Africa, going to play in the British Open. I don't know what year this was, but probably early 60s, late 50s. He actually, he didn't have managed to get enough money to get to Britain, but didn't have enough money to have a room or anything. So he actually put on his rain gear and slept in a bunker. I mean, that's determination. That's sure did. In fact, I had the opportunity to speak with him about that, just to check it out from the source down in Hickory at the Greater Hickory Classic last year. I asked him about that, and he said, "Yep, absolutely true."
That made you feel better, didn't it?
Well, no, I already felt pretty good, but I just really admire the man, and I like anybody that has the gumption to do whatever it takes to pursue their dreams, and I think that's a great story, and he's done a lot of good in this world and continues to do a lot of good. So hats off to him. So he's certainly an inspiration to me, one of the people that I look up to.
One of the unheralded athletes of our era.
That's right.
Yeah, legend in my own mind. That's for sure.
Right here on live television.
He's actually a great golfer. He really is.
I'm sure.
And
I have absolutely no doubt.
Tennis, surfing,
Oh,
baseball.
can you play tennis?
Was the quarterback of the football team in high school.
Jesus.
Thank you.
No,
Thank you.
it's
It's very kind, but let's say I love sports as much as anybody, and I've spent a lot of time pursuing it, but I'm sometimes capable of playing golf very well, and tennis is just something I do for fun, but I do. It's a great game. Love it, and surfing was my passion and my lifestyle for 15 years.
Where did you surf? Did you go to Hawaii?
We started in Hawaii, actually, when I was in the Navy out there, and
He was on a submarine, a nuclear submarine.
So you were surfing the big waves.
no, we not really. Yeah, no, they were surfing me, but yeah, that's the first place I actually went surfing. But did most of my surfing on the East Coast of the United States, on the Outer Banks of North Carolina mostly. Which there's some great surfing.
I love the Outer Banks. We have some great beaches here in North Carolina for
Serious surf.
for just being beautiful.
Yeah,
and stuff.
although I will say a lot of them are getting developed in ways that I personally don't.
I've seen it. It's amazing, isn't it? Have you seen that? Talk about a shock. Have you been down to Kitty Hawk?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't actually been out to the Outer Banks for about 5 or 6 years. Up around the Cape and Hatteras and Rodanthe and all those places.
Yeah. And we think we have development bad here. Talk about some limited land, and they're building. They're just towering these things.
It's kind of ridiculous. Wrong storm.
Clear the beaches.
Yeah, it will. It definitely will.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, in the meantime,
my
it's
parents
just
live on one of those islands.
Blight on the island when you're used to seeing it. It used to be nothing but fishermen and surfers out there.
Seagrass.
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
It was just absolutely wonderful.
Right.
But I guess.
In the Maritime Forest, I don't know if you know about the
Yeah.
Maritime Forest
yeah,
or not, but
yeah.
I did, when I lived on the island, this has been 10 years ago or more now, 15 years ago or more. I did a study of photographic study of the Maritime Forest
It's called a climax. Climax Maritime.
/ destruction of the Maritime Forest. And the first thing I did when I started out was I wrote to the Forestry Service, and I got all the maps and on all that, and I looked at all the maps of all the islands, and it showed all the maritime forests and stuff like that. And then I went around and surveyed it all and took photographs of all the maritime forests. And the first thing that I found out was that most of the maritime forests that was shown on the maps were already gone. What the Forestry Service was, where Forestry Service was saying, here is maritime forest, was already parking lots for Walmart and what have you. It was gone. And it turned out that the island that I was on had had more maritime forest on it than any other.
Is there any of that left down by Emerald Isle?
Well, that's right. That's the island I'm talking about. That's Bow Banks.
Yeah.
Is the island, and that has most of the maritime. Well, you know the island
Yeah.
well, because did you used to
Yeah.
live there? Yeah.
Well, here's a good story for you, John. I used to clam with an old, I say an old guy, he is
You know,
now
that is-
because he's my age, but
It is crazy how our lives.
it's true.
You know,
So,
it is
yeah,
crazy.
it's spooky, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
Like
but
your
anyhow,
brother is
so,
our aunt's
Best friend. I know. It is weird. It's just too weird. Go ahead.
I used to clam with this guy whose name was Pickle.
From up at Salter Path.
No,
No.
Pickle lived out in Pelletier, someplace. That's on 58 as you're
Okay.
leaving Cape Carteret area.
Okay.
Anyhow, so Pickle told me this story. We were clamming one day. He says we were off Bear Island there, and he says, my granddaddy bought that island one time. He did. He said his granddaddy paid $10 for Bear Island, which is now a state park, Hammock Beach State Park, Bear Island, and he bought it for $10 and grazed his cattle on it
Right.
for 3 years. Sold it back to the man that he bought it from for the same $10 and went, free grazing for 3 years. Made out like a demon. I love that story though. That's great.
I believe that too.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it a bit.
Who was
yeah.
the guy that told you about clamming down there during the Depression, where
Oh,
you
the
just
shrimp?
you just had to wade out there in whatever shoes you happened to own?
Oh, those
Yeah.
people were tougher than woodpecker lips. I mean, I clammed in the wintertime too myself. When you're standing up in anywhere from knee deep to chest deep water pulling the bull rake, but those guys just they had nothing. I mean, they were lucky just to have one pair of pants to wear, and talking about something that will make you old. Before that's one reason that
Out there in cold water. Yeah.
Oh, cold water, cold air, sunshine coming off the water at you. That's a tough way to make a living. Those folks, man, they scrapped it. And I remember one old fella, and I can't remember his name. Lived out Queens Creek someplace. Can't remember his name. Generations of his family lived there and fished for a living, and bought an old surfboard from him. Had a son who fell off the roof and broke his back. Had an old surfboard he was trying to get rid of, and sold it to me for $15. But I just spent some time with him, asked him to tell me some stories about the area, and he said that when he was first years ago fishing, he said shrimp. People did not eat shrimp in those days. They considered them like a roach or something, and they wouldn't eat shrimp. And
Did they use them for bait? You don't know.
no, didn't use them for anything. No, didn't use them for bait either. But he said he'd go out sometimes and just nets would be full of them. He'd bring his nets in and he'd just be cussing the whole time about the shrimp and just throwing pounds and pounds of shrimp overboard. And he said, Lord, if he had a nickel for every shrimp he'd ever brought overboard on board, that he'd been a millionaire by now. But they used to just throw them over, just pounds of them at a time. But
That was probably good whale food whale food at the time.
I guess it was. It wasn't people food at the time though, but they wouldn't eat it.
It's Purina whale chow.
I have mostly stories about oysters more than clams from down around that area.
Yeah.
I had one friend who was put in jail for taking oysters on Sunday.
Out of season?
No, on Sunday. It's a long held law down there that you don't take oysters on Sunday. And he was like we have from around here, a lot of people from out of town that don't know some of the local customs, and he had no idea about the laws about taking oysters.
Is this ready yet?
I think it's not quite.
Okay.
But if you would prefer it to that.
My consciousness has been altered already by that, and I'm wondering what that.
Well, go ahead.
This
It
tea is
doesn't
gonna
look too
be.
bad. It looks like there's
Or
something
my
there.
unconsciousness, whichever is more applicable.
Show it the pictures. or
Thank you,
something.
thank you.
Give it a little sloshing, so it'll,
A little slosh.
Thank you.
yeah, give it a little sloshing. Give him another splash now that you've sloshed it.
Thank you.
But yeah, he didn't know the local law, the laws concerning taking oysters, and that's one of them. Is this empty?
No, but it's closing in on it.
Okay, I'm gonna take it and refill it, and put another. I'm gonna put another lump in that thing. I'll show you the tea that I'm putting in the little pot, so that you'll know what that's about. And so sure enough, they arrested him for taking oysters on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Only person I ever known that was
Arrested for that particular crime?
Yes, that particular crime. Here's what I'll show you. I'll just show you. I'll just do it here. This is what goes in here.
Huh.
These are like compressed tea. Now, when the guy sold these to me, the Chinese gentleman who sells me my tea, when he sold me these are like little sample things. They make these as big tea cakes, which they sell in wooden boxes. And he says that the old ones, like if they're 100 years old and things like that, he says that one of these little tea cakes can sell for up to $1 million.
Oh, you're
This
kidding.
Or just one of those.
No,
Why?
the big one.
Okay.
This is just like a little. This is like a little.
Why would it have that much value?
Probably just because of its age. A bunch of crazy Chinese junk. Just.
Careful, let's not get into any ethnic slurs.
Oh my goodness.
You and Don Imus will be singing the blues.
All right. Have you seen that mess?
One must use discernment.
Anyway, you can see this. I say it's got a picture of a church on it. What do you make of that?
It probably is.
Sorry about that.
It probably
I almost got you good, didn't
It probably is.
I don't
I
really.
wonder
I
if
don't
the
really,
camera, how do you share that with the viewing audience? I wonder if the
Oh, you can
camera-
hold something right up in front of that camera and it'll. So I think I've held one up there before and shown it.
I'll do that. Okay, folks, you gotta help us figure this out. It could easily
It probably
be
says something
a
in
church.
Chinese. We just don't know what it says. I'll go get some more cream. Be right back.
Here we are. Let me know when I'm lined up with the camera.
It's the light's not right because the camera's too far back
Okay, just one
in the
second.
darkness.
Here we go. Is that it?
Still, it's a little bit more discernible, but not all that good. Maybe if
Okay, we try. So is this the rock and roll tea?
it is the rock tea.
This one, the big pot is the rock tea?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
But I'm not sure why it's called that. Did he say?
So, Mr. Booth,
Yes, sir.
do you have a progress report for us about how things are going up in Big Catalooch?
I'm glad to report that almost nothing has changed. That's the most progress, that is progress in my view of any wilderness area around here. If nothing has changed, it's doing great. That is to say, no human changes to it. It was beautiful. exquisite, very healing.
Yeah, it's a powerful place. Go, those of you who are listening, one at a time, and not more than once a year, to Big Catalooch up in the Great Smoky National Park. It's a wonderful place. It's a wonderful place to get off to yourself. So go by yourself.
How much tea do we have? We have a lot of tea, don't we?
What's your limit?
I think I have hit it simply because I have to work in less than 12 hours and therefore need to be able to fall asleep.
And do you have to drive somewhere?
I don't have to drive that far, but I would like to sleep for at least 6 hours.
And what kind of work?
I bake bagels.
You bake bagels.
I bake bagels.
Where can a person get a bialy in Asheville? Where can a person get a bialy in Asheville? This is a serious,
Not
important
that I
question.
am aware of.
What is a bialy?
A bialy is a member of the bagel family that is prepared a little bit differently from a regular bagel, and it's kind of like a cross between a bagel and an English muffin, and it has onion paste sort of massaged down into it. It looks a lot like a donut after it's been cooked, and it is wonderful. The only place in town you could get them was at Gold Hill back before Alvy launched himself into the great beyond. And ever since then, there's been no place in town to get a bialy.
I used to work at another bagel shop many years ago that we did bialys, but I've been told that our bialys were not all that good. So,
if you can find a good bialy, if you can make a good bialy, people will come from far and wide because, I mean, the line went out the door sometimes over there, people getting bialys, and now they're not available. It's gone.
Well, you know what? Maybe that would be something good to mention to Russell up at the Flatiron Building, since I think his wife and he are running the
World Coffee Cafe.
what is it called? World Coffee Cafe. Exactly, the World Coffee Cafe. That would be something good to mention to them, because he may would search that out and take care of that. You see, something that he could add into his pastries and stuff that he has there.
It'll be magnificent.
And it has what kind of paste in it?
Onions. Onion paste. They are really good.
Oh, it's just stirred into the dough when they make it.
No,
it's not an onion
you,
bagel. It's like,
I think you prepare the dough and then you put a dollop of onion paste
in the middle of it,
and then bake it very quickly.
Huh.
I think you boil it first and then you bake it.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Huh.
A good bialy will take you to the moon, especially with lots of butter. I used to live in Manhattan for a little while, as you can tell. Ruined me forever.
Where did you hang out in Manhattan? Now, see Bleecker and McDougal.
Spring and Thompson.
Okay.
In the Village.
Spring and Thompson. See, and I was hanging out more Bleecker
Soho.
and McDougal.
Soho, yeah.
I was hanging out between. Let me see. Washington Square.
Mm-hmm.
And you go down McDougal to Bleecker.
Mm-hmm.
And about 3/4 of the way, 2/3 of the way, 3/4 of the way down, there was a place called the Scrap Bar. Did you ever go to the Scrap Bar? Okay. Well, my office was the falafel joint over the Scrap Bar. Now the Scrap Bar was the facade of the place was, what the story is, had been made out of. Everything there was junk that had been picked up on the side of the road. And it was welded up out of motorcycle frames and baby doll heads and stuff. Okay, but it was and also the Scrap Bar. That was a good name for it because sometimes they'd be scrapping down there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But it was also the place, like if Mick Jagger hit town, he would be likely to duck into that place and stuff. It was just one of those places. So I established my office as the falafel joint just above it. It's like they had stairs that went down to the bar, and they had stairs outside that went up to the falafel joint, and then the window, my office window, if you will, was directly over the stairs leading into the scrap bar. So I could, without getting hurt, I could I could monitor who came and went. See, so if Mick Jagger was in town, I would know and stuff like that. So I put that's where I sat, and I did business from that spot right there above. And they even had a falafel named after me that was real good there.
Did you know a sax man named Denny Rouse?
I don't think
Who was
so.
living on Carmine Street?
Well, it sounds
about that
familiar,
time.
Carmine Street, but I don't know that name.
Denny
But
is
I'm real bad at names.
a real world-class sax man. Used to tour with Art Blakey, and was Stevie Wonder's band leader for some time.
Okay.
Denny had a nervous breakthrough after 9/11. He was jogging by the World Trade Center when the second plane hit, and it transformed his life profoundly, and he ended up moving to Kauai, and we shared a house.
I don't blame him.
We shared a house together for about 6 months, and he had stories about all the old jazz cats. Great player.
Yeah, well, that's where Gus Statiris was in New York and all. And he had stories about
Jocko. Did you ever run into Jocko there? Pastorius.
Maybe all these names. You know, River from here in River, the percussionist. I first ran across him in Greenwich Village, and then when I saw him in Asheville, it was very confusing for a while till I could figure. Until I could figure it out. You know, he was in the wrong place. But I fell in with a group of folk musicians in the village when I was there that go back to
Zimmerman. One of them named Zimmerman.
No, but the Jewish woman whose house I lived in out in Whitestone. I had an apartment in her basement where I lived. She went to lunch every, let's say Tuesday or Wednesday or something like that. She lunched with Mr. Zimmerman's secretary. So I actually know I didn't hang out with Mr. Zimmerman, but I could always get the gossip from that.
You know, I used to be housemates with Peggy Seeger for a year and a half.
Really?
And once I asked Peggy, I said, Peggy, did you ever do any gigs with Dylan back in the early days? And she said, no, I'd already left for England. She said, but he did ask me for my autograph one time. And I said, isn't it usually the other way around? She said, yeah. She said it was 60 or 61, and Ewan and I, her husband Ewan McCall, who wrote the song First Time Ever I Saw Your Face, that's the face. It's Peggy. Peggy Seeger is the face, and First Time Ever I Saw Your Face. She said Ewan wrote that song in 15 minutes. Number one hit in the world for quite a long time. So she said that she and Ewan were doing a concert at the University of Minnesota in 60 or 61. She couldn't remember. And she said, and there was this funny little guy sitting in the front row, and she said, and I remember